Hi guys, great to see all your faces. I'm a grateful believer in Jesus Christ, celebrating victory over alcohol and nicotine addiction.
Amen.
I'm still working on character defects such as control issues and anxiety, and my name is Marianne. I'm going to start with a prayer. Dear God, you know I hate public speaking, and it has taken me 7 years to get over the fear to come up here. Please help me to speak and breathe easily during this testimony and give glory to you and the changes you've helped me make in my life. Amen. I was born the youngest of 7 kids in Allegan, Michigan. I was the baby of the family. I was lucky to have a loving family and no big T traumas, but that does not mean there was not many issues. In my family, kids were to be seen and not heard. And of course, being the youngest, I had the least amount to say. My parents were both hardworking farmers, and during the summer months, I remember being 5 and getting paid $1 a day to stay out of the way. In hindsight, that's not real great on your self-esteem. And my nickname was Butterball, so that's probably not great either. I was 5 years younger than my oldest siblings, and one of my memories in the 7th grade, my 2 siblings moved out of the house the same summer, which left me alone with my parents. It went from a loud house with constant noise to being an only child. My parents went out with friends a lot, and I remember being scared in the house and sitting alone. One specific memory, I remember sitting in the corner with a knife. I was convinced somebody was going to break in. I felt abandoned, and of course that's also the awkward middle school ages, where you just don't feel like you fit in anywhere. My parents were not alcoholics, but they did make alcohol a constant in our house. Everyone that walked in was offered a beer. My dad had a beer or 2 every night. When friends were over, everyone was drinking. It just seemed like the natural, cool thing to do. I took my first beer from my parents' fridge in 6th grade. I remember going out with my pony and drinking that beer and feeling like I was all of a sudden confident and could do everything. So started my journey of drinking to feel more acceptable and comfortable in my own skin. I started drinking whenever I got a chance and hung out with the kids who drank also. My dad also smoked, so my friends and I would sneak cigarettes from his pack. Drinking and sometimes smoking on the weekend made me feel like I fit in, and I could even talk to boys. Between our houses, we could always find alcohol. We'd drink from my parents' vodka bottle and fill it with water. I thought this was normal. As I got in high school, my older siblings would even buy me alcohol. They would just tell me to be careful. I got myself in some pretty dicey situations, and I'm so thankful to God that I did not do more damage to myself or to somebody else when I was driving home. My family was a large Catholic family, and I went to church every week and on special occasions. I was baptized as an infant and confirmed in elementary. I always believed in Jesus Christ, but the God that I was taught about was more of a distant, judging God. I did not feel a close relationship with that God like I do now. My earliest memories of church were hiding under the bed after church because I could not sit still during church, and my dad was always threatened I was going to get spanked when I got home. I would consider my family growing up as more of Sunday Christians. I love my parents, and I know they did the best they knew how to do with the upbringings they had and the generation. They showed more of a conditional love, though, and if we were doing well and meeting their expectations, it was good. But you had to do what they expected. It was Dad's way or no way, and that carried over into my adulthood even. My parents were judgmental and punitive. The appearance of everything perfect was important. So looking back, I grew up thinking I was never quite good enough. I did get worried during that time that God's love was conditional too. After moving out of the house and going to college, I went in and out of church until after my kids got in elementary, where I was more consistent. During all those years, I graduated from high school and then got a bachelor's and then a 4-year doctorate degree. The culture during all this time in school was to party hard on the weekends or whenever we finished a test. During grad school, I even got married. We started a business after we graduated, had 3 kids of our own, and adopted one. On the outside, it all looked great, and a lot of it really was. But during it all, I drank. I was able to give it up for all 3 pregnancies and for different occasions, so I didn't consider it a problem. I also never drank during the day or at work, so again, no alcohol problem here, I told myself. Over the years, I had some major spikes in my drinking, surrounding some traumatic events. First, around our 10-year anniversary, I found out my husband had an affair our senior year of grad school and our first year of marriage. After we graduated is when I found that out. They had broken off the affair years ago, but of course I had just found this out. I was devastated, and I thought about divorce for the first time in our marriage. My alcohol consumption did a big spike during that time. I felt betrayed and alone, and in my mind I had a reason to drink. Second, my youngest son, who was 2 at the time, was diagnosed with autism. Again, I was devastated. I did not know what to do to help him. It wasn't as common to hear about it 26 years ago as it is now. But I dove into autism, staying up at late at night, drinking, researching treatments, looking for ways to teach him, worrying, praying, probably not praying enough. He did not speak till he was over 5. He was not potty trained until after he started elementary, and he had many long, drawn-out tantrums that he could not communicate his needs. I was grieving all the loss of all the things he might never do, like graduate, drive, date, have kids, and learning to accept this altered reality of the wonderful gift he is to us, just as he is. I used alcohol as a tool to relieve my stress during that time, and it seemed to work temporarily. Unfortunately, what I did not realize is that alcohol increased my anxiety and stress the next day. It could be a vicious circle and delayed me learning other more healthy tools sooner. Those were some tough years. During that time, we'd stopped going to the Catholic Church in Kalamazoo, and we're not going to church at all. But one day, my husband's sister called us out of the blue and said, "Hey, let's go to the Methodist church our parents go to in Pawpaw." We went there the next Sunday, and I really liked the pastor and the church. I felt like God, through the pastor, spoke to me that day. The message to me was, don't give up. Fight for your marriage and your family, and you will be stronger. My husband's sister never once came to church after that call. But talk about a God thing. It was a game changer for me, and I am so thankful she called. We went weekly to church after that. I got much closer to God. We went to therapy for our marriage. We went to therapy for Brendan, our youngest. I began seeing my part in the affair, even though I didn't want to. I was always going out drinking with friends and leaving my husband alone. I chose alcohol over him many times. I'm not excusing the affair, but I can see my part in it now. And somehow we did get through those hard times even stronger. And I began modulating my drinking again for the next 10 years. In 2007, I gave up smoking for Lent, the spring before my 40th birthday. I had asthma at that time, high blood pressure, and was 30 pounds heavier. I decided I just wanted to run a 5K for my 40th birthday to help with the nicotine cravings. I had to run one telephone pole and walk one. It took me forever to run that first mile. I also always gave up alcohol for Lent, so that was another reason I didn't think alcohol was a problem. During the next 10 years, I got into running and triathlons. I mostly continued the no smoking, but not the no drinking. After the first 2 years of doing triathlons and my husband watching, he decided to join. In 2012, we did our first full distance Ironman. That's a 2.5 mile swim, 112 mile bike, and a 26.2 mile marathon. All in under 17 hours. It's a long day with no music, no headphones allowed. It's a lot of time alone in your own mind, fighting your own demons, but it also gives you a lot of time to talk to God and be grateful. That first Ironman, I wore the Bible quote from Hebrews 12:1 on my swim cap. Let us run with perseverance the race marked out before us. In hindsight, I really should have took the whole quote to heart. Therefore, since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, let us throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles, and let us run with perseverance the race marked out for us. If only I would have listened then to the throwing off of the entanglement of drinking for good, I would have saved myself another 5 years of struggle. I had quit drinking for 90 days before that race. Triathlons were good for our marriage and my health. Drinking most definitely was not, and would continue to sneak back in. In 2011 and 12, we went through the foster care system classes. I had always been a dream of mine to adopt. I figured we had the home and love to give. I felt strongly that God was calling me for this, and my husband was supportive. We went in with open hearts and the best of intentions. My drinking was a lot better at that time, and I stayed true to not smoking. My other kids were a sophomore in college, a senior in high school, and my youngest with autism was 15. They were supportive of us opening our home too. In hindsight, we were naive on the toll this could have on all of us. We got a call from the foster system in 2012. We had said a child under 5, but got a call about a 9-year-old boy and felt like this was a sign. We said yes. We took him in June of 2012. We found out beforehand he had been in 5 different foster homes and they could not handle him for one reason or another. The foster system was reassuring. It was all the other parents' faults. We could do it. We thought, we've been through autism, we've been through ADHD, we can do this. He had a lot of big T traumas in his life, and he was angry, which was understandable. But he walked in our door literally saying, "You're not the boss of me," on day 1. He constantly told us we were not his parents, we could not tell him what to do. The foster system kept reassuring us that once he was adopted, he would feel safe and settle down. So we formally adopted him 8 months after he came into our home. He did not settle down. We had no idea the amount of anger and destruction he could bring into our house. He was eventually diagnosed with reactive attachment disorder. He would rage at us, particularly me, for hours on end, chasing me from room to room when he did not get what he wanted and beating on the door. We could totally understand mentally where he was coming from, and we had all the empathy we could for him and all he had been through on his previous traumas, but we had no way to cope with it ourselves. Our son that was a senior tried to be a good brother and mentor to him, but went into a dark place himself with all the angry outbursts. We were having trouble keeping our autistic child safe from his manipulations. As he got older and bigger, we began, me especially, to be more afraid for my physical safety. We put cameras on the house. We slept with our bedroom door locked for the last 2 years he was with us. During the years he was 14 and 15, I admit alcohol really got its hooks in me. It felt like I was no longer an option. It was no longer an option not to drink. I would drink every night after I got home from work and they were going to bed, just to face being home. I kept it hidden, or I thought I did, but I was definitely becoming addicted. I could not drink due to the anxiety and the anger that had taken over inside of me. At that time, I did not have tools that worked. Exercise still worked some, but not enough. Luckily, I found help and I was able to quit drinking when he was 15, so I was sober the last 2 years he was in our house. At 17, he took off and was back and forth for 6 months, finding his family in Grand Rapids. Then at 17 and a half, he told us we were no longer his parents and he didn't want anything to do with us, and he left. We did not have contact with him for another year. He ended up in jail and we've been able to reconnect somewhat. I am thankful we were able to keep him and others safe for the 8 years while he was with us. I know God is not done with his story, and we were part of that story for a reason that will continue to be revealed over time. I was living a double life during that time. I had switched from beer to vodka to lose weight during those years, and it was easier to hide a vodka bottle than beer cans. I was healthy and active during the day. We had continued to do Ironman races as they were great therapy, but drinking at night as soon as I got off work till 11 or 12. Feeling awful all day till I could drink again. If I had a big run, I would not drink for a few days, but then it would rebound back as a celebration. God kept tapping on the door and I kept turning away. I kept praying for him to intervene and take the urge away, but he did not, and I didn't do anything about it. God kept telling me, this is not who you are. I began to hate looking at myself in the mirror in the morning. I loathed what I was doing to myself. I hated waking up mornings checking my phone with no memory of who I'd talked to or texted the night before. I kept breaking promises made to myself in the morning and broken by that night. I was losing respect for myself. My husband was beginning to see I had a problem. He did not get on my case about it much, but it was affecting our marriage. At one of his concerts I went to, he had written a song called Try. I had never heard that song. It was about my drinking, and I just cried.
darkness all around you. You wonder how you ever will begin. You've been here before, in a state of desperation, only to return to what you know. Try, can you stand again and try? Try, come on baby, one more time. We all got pain, and we all got ways of dealing, but baby, there are better ways to die. So take this hand, there are more of them around you. You never have to walk this road. Try, can you stand again and try? Try, come on baby, one more time. As gravity is pulling you, its voices ever calling you, it offers up its simple remedy. But it's taking more than giving you, it's lying as it's telling you that you ain't got the strength to see this through. Try, can you stand again and try? Try, come on baby, one more time. The road is long, there's darkness all around you. You wonder how you ever will begin.
Little did he know when he wrote that, let's see, it's over 7 years ago in March, that he was writing that for CR and that we don't have to walk this road alone. Another time when we were biking, we stopped by a church for a break and it had an AA sign out front. He said, if you ever want to try that, I'll go with you. I was a little mortified. He thought I needed that. And now later, I know he couldn't have came with me anyway. But it was very sweet that he would have gone. Another time I was looking at my phone on the pics and I found a video he had taken of me drunk while I was sitting on the stairs. He was trying to get me to come in the house. I could barely move or speak. I was quite shocked at how slack my face looked in that video. When I showed him it, he said he calls that my stroke face. And that's how I look sometimes late at night. Again, I was mortified, and now I really started thinking I better get some help. We'll go back and say a few years earlier, I had talked to my doctor about my overdrinking, and he had told me it couldn't be much of a worry, as I was a successful person, business person, never missed work, was running Ironman, and didn't have any big T traumas. I just had a lot of stress, so even the doctor was giving me excuses. I guess neither of us had realized addiction does not discriminate. Bad habits and coping skills over time turn into addictions. In January of 2017, I ran into a friend drinking at a party. I had partied with her many times. I asked what she was drinking, and she said water. I was instantly interested. I know God put her in my path for a reason. When I got home that night, and admittedly after a few drinks, I texted her and asked how she did it. She told me her testimony and that she had been sober a year. She invited me to AA. I went to my first AA meeting in February 20th, 2017. I joined an intensive outpatient group and I got counseling. I did AA meetings a few times a week for the next year, and I also joined CR and Papa in October of 2017 when it started. I knew in my soul drinking was not the life God wanted me to live. I needed my nighttime person to be the same as my daytime person. I wanted my mind and my body to be a vessel for God to use for His good. I worked the program, I did my 12 steps in AA, and attended CR consistently since 2017. I asked for several people to be my sponsor. My first one relapsed and stayed out. My second one moved away and did not have time anymore. Both felt like big blows, and it was a struggle in my new fragile sobriety not to take that personally. So don't give up if you ask for a sponsor. It was finally my third try in 2018 that I found a sponsor who I'm now lucky to call a friend. In 2019, I finished the Kona Ironman, our 15th, with that banner that says I conquered the can't. That is so true about addiction, about running, but actually now I realize more so about addiction. There's no can't. It's just how hard can we try and how hard can we keep trying and get back up and go. I now know God is the wind behind my back, but I still have to pedal. I still have to put one right foot in front of the other and work the program. In 2020 in Cozumel, we were staying at an Ironman race at an all-inclusive resort. I was almost 5 years sober, and I relapsed. I was running the marathon, and I started running with my husband, and I totally convinced him and myself that I'd been sober long enough. I had learned my lesson, and I had many more tools now to deal with life. Our adopted son had moved out. Our house was calmer. I had made rules for drinking. I would only drink 1 or 2, only beer, no hard alcohol. I wouldn't drink every night, just on occasion. So he agreed with me, and we thought we would try it.
We would only drink in Mexico.
Right. That night I had a beer and went to bed. Then the next day I broke most of those rules. I had multiple drinks. I had hard alcohol in the mixed drink. I didn't get drunk, but I could feel my control slipping. It started taking over my mind. We flew home, and 2 days later I found out my mom was in the hospital, and she came home on hospice. I was helping take care of her. This is 6 nights from the time I drank the first time. And on that night when I drove home, I passed out on the kitchen floor, and Andy took this picture that I found the next day. That's a proud moment. 6 days post I thought I could take this, or actually I guess it was 10 days. That was it. I went back to CR. I admitted that I'd relapsed. I was honest. Luckily I had that family to go back to. I was sober the next 5 days before my mom died and was able to spend that time with her. My dad died 21 days later from a broken heart after 70 years of marriage. I relapsed once more that night to ease the pain, but as we all know, it doesn't really work. It felt like taking a pause from the pain, but as I reminded myself later, there is no pause. There's only moving forward or backwards. Drinking may have seemed like a pause or an escape, but then I just had to dig myself out deeper. It took me a while to get over that relapse, but now I just consider it a 10-day lapse. I still have my almost 7 years, well now 7 years of sobriety. I did not lose that or the hard work or the tools I put in. The lapse actually made me come back stronger. And it showed me once again I cannot control alcohol, and I need to remember to lean on God. During those hard times, I reach out for His help. How am I different now, and what would I say to a younger me that thought life would be boring without alcohol? I would tell that younger person how great it feels to be free of those chains. Life is way better and smoother, that alcohol had no positive effect on my life. I would tell myself that the normal culture of drinking I was always seeing was because that's where I was looking. Over the years, I have met multiple people that did not drink in high school or college. Imagine that. I used to hate leaving a party. I would have FOMA, that fear of missing out. I now have JOMA, joy of going to bed with my husband and knowing who and what I am. Joy of knowing I will not have a hangover in the morning or I have to look at my phone to see who I called. Joy of just waking up to the great new day of possibilities. I realize sometimes we have to be cracked for the light to shine in or out. And I used to listen at meetings to hear people say, wait for the miracle. Now I realize the miracle is not only that I no longer even think about alcohol, but even more so, I get to see God working miracles in other people's recovery every day. To see others when they first come in and watch them grow is such a gift to me, and it fills me with hope. CR has been a huge part of that recovery. I've grown so much closer to God and see Jesus as a friend to walk with now. I love all the people I meet in CR. I've got a whole group that came tonight. Thank you. The serenity prayers become a daily part, sometimes hourly part of my day. I'd like to thank my husband who has stood by my side this whole time and been so supportive. He even quit drinking the same time I did. It wasn't a huge thing for him, but it was a social thing. And the support has been huge. We're now celebrating, will be our 35th wedding anniversary in September. Going
to Mexico.
Yeah. Yeah, that's sarcasm. I would also like to thank my kids who've been so supportive of me and curious about the process. I'm grateful for their support, but also that I can show them how recovery looks. That they've been able to see me and do the work, see me do the work, and know how addiction can sneak in. So maybe that will help them avoid a few pitfalls of their own. I'm grateful to have 4 grandkids. I'll be able to always pick up in the middle of the night if they need me. I don't have to not worry about not being able to do that. And I'm grateful they'll see a house with healthy grandparents where alcohol doesn't have to be a part of every celebration. I love being a sponsor and helping others turn to God and away from their substance of choice. In 2023, I did the CR study in Pawpaw, and I truly enjoyed getting to know each of the women and watching them grow. The STEP study helped me realize how far I'd come and reflect on what things I still want to do. I now don't even want alcohol or nicotine. I turn to God with my problems and I pray. I also rely on my accountability partners, my CR family, and my sponsor. I'm continuing to stretch and grow. I'm currently working on eating healthier and also working on my pride and control issues. I will continue in recovery one day at a time, putting my trust in Jesus Christ and seek other areas to serve. Andy has one more song for you. Also wrote about recovery.
Well, this has certainly been a journey for me as well. And one of the things early in our recovery that we started doing, and we still do, is we go to the gym early in the morning. That means we got to get to bed early at night, and that makes things a little easier. And so we were driving home from the gym, and she says, we actually pass like 7 party stores from here to home. And I'm like, who counts party stores? And it was just one of the little insights of like how this thing works that I never knew. I'm glad you said that and shared it with me, and it became part of this song. Well, I've passed 7 bars on my way home from work every night. It's been a full year since I stopped for my whiskey on ice. Now I don't know if I can ever proclaim that I'm free of these demons that call out my name constantly. But today I was clean. Small victory. I wake with darkness inside my head, and it weaves through my soul like some heavy invisible thread. But I get on my feet and I get on my clothes, get me to work, and I get back home and I stand with my arms and my feet for small victory. Some get a trophy and some get a stage, some get their names in a history page, but for me, they're my own victories. The peak of this mountain I'm climbing still hides in the clouds, and some days I gain footing and others I tumble back down. But I'm starting to see that the point of this climb is not the high summit, but the lessons I find on